Here we are on day 3 of this little Kawasaki Vulcan 500. I'm going to go ahead and check the valves, but first you got to remove all this stuff. Drop the coolant, not a big deal. Dropped it, put it in a bucket over there. And a couple other things I noticed. No, this is not the third day that I've had the bikes. It's the third day of me working on it. I pulled my back out, so yeah, it's always been fun. But a couple other things I noticed is if we come over here and we look at the clutch adjustment, this right here, we have 2 threads. So yeah, she's gonna need a new clutch. So I think we've already got that taken care of. That's on order. I should be getting the stator cover gasket today. But now I'm pulling all this crap off the top so I can pull the valve cover off. And somebody's already been in here, which is a good thing because it possibly means maintenance. And I can tell that by how boogered that screw is right there. And you can see that it's all dingy and it's not bright metal, so I didn't do that. And I had an issue on the other side as well, but it was tight. I couldn't use a screwdriver on it. But if you ever get one of these, where's it at? Harbor Freight impact hammers, it comes with a bunch of bits. One of them looks like this. Now obviously I can't get that whole mess in here, but what I can do is I can put that on there. I'm doing this one-handed. Now I'm going to take an extension. I might have to pull some of this stuff out of the way to get on it. But if I put an extension on there, take my rigid impact, stick it on here, get this as straight as possible. Let's see if we're either going to strip it more at more drastic measures or if it breaks loose. It's twisting in there, so we're gonna get some juice on that penetrating fluid. You see now, if we look at it, you can see there's some shiny spots on there from what I just did, so that might become an issue. Go ahead and pull thermostat housing, water neck, and everything out just so I get a straight shot on it. But we're gonna put some penetrating fluid on there, get this out and out of the way so we can check our valve clearances and see where we got to go from there. So quick update, that thing fought me and fought me and fought me. Would not left hand drill. Finally had to get the easy outs. So what I've got is I've got an easy out on a 1/4 inch extension, which is nothing more than a extension you use for a screw gun. And then that's on another extension just to get it up and out of the rails. Sorry for the focus, but that's all I did was stuck it in there, and as you can see, chewed the shit out of the bolt, but it's coming loose. So sometimes you have to get stupid with it. So we'll go ahead and put all this back in my little Ryobi kit, and these little cheap extractors are perfect for working on old motorcycles. I think I got those Harbor Freight, not sure. Anyway, we're gonna get this out, get this tube out, get the valve cover off, and see what we see. So we finally got the tube out, and when you're working on these old engines like this, been sitting around, put together for umpteen amounts of years. Did I mention that it is hotter than hell today? Anyway, when you get all the bolts out, never just go to prying. Just take Tanya Harding's little sister, Tara Harding, just start tapping. Come over here, do some tapping. As you can see, I don't know if you guys can see that, but the valve cover is now bouncing. So there we go. She's up and off, so now I just got to figure out if I got to move the fan, finish taking all this crap out, or what to get that thing out. But we're making it. Did I mention it's hot as hell in here? So we got the valve cover off, and it looks like somebody used sealant with a rubber gasket, which in my mind is a no-no, so that's going to take a long time to clean up. But we got the plug out on the crank, so where the stator's at. We got our 14mm socket so we can turn the engine over. And what I did is I have not looked up the valve specs for this yet. So I am going to check them, then I'm going to go look them up and see what we have to change or if we have to change anything. And I made me a map to write everything down. So obviously front means that way. Captain's is the left side. The drinkers is the passenger side or the right side. That's how I do everything in cars and stuff. We got exhaust on the top, which means if we look, we got the exhaust to the front and we got the intakes back here. So I rolled it over. It looks like I got both intakes and exhaust open on this, or closed on this side, so the lobes are facing up. So what I'm going to do is go ahead, take my trusty feeler gauge and see what size fits in there with a little bit of drag. And these are not shim under bucket, so we can use flat tip screwdriver and a wrench to adjust these. Otherwise we'd have to pull the cams out and that's a pain in the ass. But I'm going to go ahead and get to working. And one thing I am noticing is, if you look at my drawing, okay, we got 2 exhaust valves per cylinder and 2 intakes, but we only have 1 cam lobe. So in theory, these 2 should be set to the same and those 2 should be set to the same. But we're going to check our gap here, which this really is not going to have any bearing on it. It's just going to be these 2. We're going to check our clearances there and there, write them down, move on to the next, and then go look it up and see if we're even in spec. Onward and upward. Did I mention it's fucking hot in here? Okay, so we got our map done, and I went and looked up the actual clearances for the valves. Keen-eyed among you might notice that the copper oiling tubes, that little guy right there, sits in a hole right here and a hole back here and screws on here. I took those out just so I could get a wrench and screwdriver in here and not worry about damaging, bending, breaking those oiling tubes. So here's what we got. So for the captain's side, the exhaust, I got 6 thou on both exhaust valves and I got 6 and 7 on the drinker's side. And then on the intakes, I got 7 thou and 6 thou and 5 and 4. And the specs, the intakes are supposed to be 5 to 7. So that one I would say is perfect. That one's actually pretty decent too. Those 2 down there on the other side, I'm going to adjust those to where they're in the 6 or 7 range. So if we look at the exhaust side, 7 to 9. Front captain side is too tight and the drinker side is too tight. So we're going to need to do some valve adjustments. And this is nothing more than breaking this captive nut loose, adjusting the screw, and when you get it adjusted exactly right, you hold the screw from turning and then you tighten down the captive nut. So I'm going to get busy. Did I happen to mention it's hot in here? So we've got these 3 adjusted. Now we're working on this intake side. And the intake, the upper end is 7 thou. So I'm going to show you a little secret or a little trick that I use to get me within the range really quick. So if we look, we can see that these valves are on an angle and we're trying to stick something flat inside there. So we got to try and match that angle, and plus it goes down and over. And if I would have had a better set of these type of gauges, those work perfect for getting inside there and getting flat, which I probably have what I want in there. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and do this one-handed. So I have an 8 thou feeler gauge. That's too big. But if I can adjust this top piece just to where the feeler gauge acts as a no-go gauge, so see, I can still get that to drag in there. Let me grab my screwdriver. There's another little turn. I can still get it to go in there, and if I push down on it right here, so that's at about 8 thousandths right there as far as the adjustment goes. So let's give it a little bit more. Okay, so I can no longer fit that 8 thou feeler gauge in there, which tells me I'm probably sitting at 6 thou adjustment, which is right in the middle of where I want to be. So I don't want it. I try to put them on the looser side, the 7, but then you add a little bit of chatter with the valves and stuff, and people complain and stuff. So by doing this, so here's the 7 thou. And I can get a little bit of drag, but it's a little too tight. So let's just back that off just a little bit. It's hard to do this one-handed. So there's 7. So if I actually tighten this down to where it pinches it, in theory, I should not be able to stick the 8 inside there. If I had both hands, I could have knocked this out really quick. So there's a lot of drag on that. So if we go up to our quote-unquote no-go gauge, which is the 8, I can't get it to go in. So I'd actually probably lock that down and call it good, but I'm going to go ahead and just put both hands on it. I just wanted to show that little tip. If you use the upper end as your no-go gauge, tighten it down to where you can't get it in there. You can get it really close that way, and then check it. And another note is, once you get them all adjusted, roll the engine over a couple times and then just go back in and recheck. It's hot in here. I'm frustrated. So whoever was in this thing last put silicone sealant all around this rubber gasket, and I've just spent the last 2 hours in the sun with brake cleaner and a plastic bristle brush trying to scrub it all off, because what's going to happen is anywhere there is that gasket material, it's possibility for an oil leak because there's a surface differential there. Then I flipped over the valve cover and I scraped this edge off, but we can still see remnants in here. All of this has got to come out. I'm gonna have to hit this with a wire wheel and get all this stuff out. It's just frustrating because there's no need for that on this type of seal. So you can see we got all that gasket sealant all through here, and you know, it's kind of like mechanics masturbation. I know it's rough to put it that way, but if you do it right the first time, then you don't fuck the next guy. And chances are, if it's yours, you're gonna be that next guy. So therefore, it's mechanics masturbation. You're just fucking yourself in the long run. Sorry for the rant, but there's just no need for this. So now, if I can't get this cleaned up, I have to spend more of my customers' money to replace this rubber seal, which is reusable. It's quite literally reusable. It is designed to take the valve cover off, adjust the valves, put the valve cover back on, torque everything down, and it reseals. Now what I'm going to probably have to do is I'm going to have to check these inside corners really good on these bosses and make sure there's no sealant in there, because I may have to actually put a little bit of sealant in there, which is in turn mechanics masturbation. If this bike ever comes back to me, guess what? I'm screwed. So I'm going to continue scrubbing on this and scrubbing on that. I did get the surface on the head cleaned up pretty decent. And I'll just give you a little trick. I use these little X-Acto razor blades, and you can see that we have places we don't want to get this crud. So if you take it and you hold it at an angle, and I hold it up and down or back just a little bit and scrape this direction. So here I would be scraping away from the inside of the engine. Then you lessen the chance of any debris falling down inside the engine. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to cleaning that damn gasket. Sorry for the rant. By the way, it's hot in here. More hours later. Clean this lens off. So more hours later, I've been working on this gasket channel, and to get 90% of it off, what I did was I just got a little wire wheel in my drill press, turn it on, going fairly slow, and you kind of angle it and allow those bristles to get inside that channel and just slowly walk it around. But even after that, it's not a perfect solution, because I've been going around and scraping the inside corners and the sidewalls, and you can see all the crap that I'm still getting out of this thing. But I'm just taking my time, having fun. I'm not in the heat right now. I'm in my little air conditioning side, and I'm just going around. I would like to meet the guy who put that sealant on that rubber seal and spill his beer. Now, I'm pretty sure Sydney did not do this, the girl that used to own this bike. Pretty sure. And if she did, and if Sydney, if you ever see this, shame on you. But I don't think it was you that did it. But anyway, here's what I've been doing for about the last hour or so on this part. Back starting to get angry at me, so I think this is probably going to conclude day 3. I'm gonna get this cleaned up, get it blown off, go set it on the engine just so crap doesn't fall inside the engine. No marbles or ball bearings, pterodactyls. And I am gonna go inside and relax, put some ice on my back, and probably go see the chiropractor tomorrow again. And, well, that's day 3. Moving a little slow with my back issues, but we're getting something done.